On March 13th, 2020, a customer needed an oil change and tire rotation, so he took his car to the dealership for routine maintenance. While he was waiting, a 19-year-old mechanic with no driver's license was working on the vehicle when something terrible happened. This is more than a tragic story. It's an important lesson for all drivers in every state. After the service was complete, the dealer mechanic attempted to start the car when suddenly it lurched forward, crushing a 42-year-old mechanic against a cabinet. Court records show that the mechanic passed away. The dealer mechanic didn't have a license, and the vehicle owner wasn't behind the wheel. Now he's being sued. Why are you responsible for another person's negligence? Welcome back to Car Coach Reports. I'm Lauren Fix. If this is your first time here, we give you more than car reviews and first looks of new vehicles. We give you car smarts because knowledge is power. Subscribe and click that little bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. What happened is tragic, but how can you be involved in a lawsuit involving your vehicle if you weren't even there? We speak with Christopher Saeli, an attorney and team member, to explain why you are responsible. Next time you drop off your car for repair, loan a car to a friend, or hand off your keys to a valet, you need to know the law and how you could be involved in a legal action like this one. Please listen to the facts. You'll be surprised.
Personal injury law and tort law, especially vicarious liability theory, is a very wide range of law, and it varies all across the United States, but the general theory is the same, which is a third party can be held liable for the actions of another party if they entrust them with the keys to a piece of equipment. So in this instance, a vehicle. You give somebody a vehicle, they're driving your vehicle, you're not even in it or around it, they get into a major accident, you can still be sued for negligence via vicarious liability theory and entrustment theory. This is a very wide area of the law. It's not something that I practice in every day. And I do know a great attorney by the name of Blake Zaccanino who does do this every day. And Blake would be an excellent reference to speak to regarding something like that. So if you have any questions about vicarious liability theory or personal injury law as it relates to automotive accidents, please let me know and I can reach out to Blake. I can get Blake on, or we can just try and get answers to your questions as soon as possible. In this instance, it has to do with the combination of workers' compensation laws and tort vicarious liability theory. In Michigan, and actually in a lot of states, you are not able to sue your employer for negligence as an employee. Workers' compensation laws and the Workers' Compensation Act were designed specifically to remove the employee's rights to sue an employer and provide the workers' compensation as the only remedy. So in this case in Michigan, and I'm not a Michigan attorney, but as I understand it, the workers' compensation law is the only remedy. There are avenues around this, specifically if the dealership did not have workers' compensation insurance in place, then the employee could sue the dealership directly. But because they have workers' compensation insurance and this was an on-the-job negligence act, the employee has to sue the owner of the vehicle for vicarious liability by entrusting the keys to the vehicle to the dealership, who then entrusted it to the employee without a driver's license.
Now, is the same thing true if I'm an employer and I lend the keys to my car or the company vehicle to an employee? They can't sue me? What would happen in that case?
If you're an employer and you lend your company car to an employee to use and they get into an accident or they injure or kill somebody, they can't necessarily sue you individually from what I understand, but the company itself would still be liable because it's not an employee to employer relationship. Your employee would be getting into an accident with an independent third party who could then bring a claim against you as the company.
Is that true also with rental cars?
Rental cars actually have a very specific exemption. So I forget exactly what this was. I think it was the Graves Act. And it was something that was passed by George W. Bush in 2005, I believe. And it specifically exempts people who are in the business of lending and leasing cars. And I'm going to use leasing lightly here because I'm not sure if that applies to, say, you go and get a lease from your dealership. It may, but I know specifically it applies to rental car companies because that is their business. So it exempts somebody in the business of renting a car to another third party from being liable for that party's actions. That's why when you go get a rental car, if you decline to get the insurance, your insurance is responsible if you get into an accident.
So what happens if I lend a car to a neighbor or a family member? How am I responsible?
You are entrusting that person willingly with the keys to your vehicle. And because you're doing that, you create an agency relationship whereby they are almost an extension of you. Because you are allowing them to use the vehicle willingly, any sort of accident or incident that they get into is an extension of you essentially agreeing to allow them to use the vehicle. And that's how you can be involved, is because they create a relationship by giving that person the keys, whereby you, even though you weren't in the vehicle, are vicariously liable for that person's actions because you gave them access to the vehicle.
Is that valet cars too?
Valet cars as well. So if you give your car to a valet at a restaurant and they get into an incident where they injure somebody, you can be named in the lawsuit as well.
Now I'm scared to give people my keys or have them move my car or even bring my car to the dealership. What's going to calm my nerves so that,
You're not involved in a lawsuit.
Unfortunately, this is just kind of a risk you have to take, and it's part of your daily life. You know, a dealer, it goes two ways, right? So you can't take your car to a dealership and then tell the dealer that you want to be the only person responsible for moving your car. They're not going to let you onto their property and move the car around their property, because then their insurance would have to get involved because it's vicarious liability the opposite direction. So you have to entrust certain people with this responsibility. Now, generally, in the case of this Michigan man, he's named as a party in the lawsuit. He's being sued for the damages. The end result is most likely going to be that he will not pay anything, and his insurance company will likely not pay anything because of other avenues that he can take towards the dealership. But certain things like this are tragic and they're not commonplace, and taking your vehicle in for an oil change or valeting at a restaurant is something that you see all the time. Something that I find interesting, many cars have a valet mode, and the valet mode limits the top speed of the vehicle to something like 10 or 15 miles an hour. If you have a valet mode on your vehicle and you want to valet your vehicle at a restaurant or anywhere you go, I would highly recommend using it, because the lower the speed, the less likely an accident is going to occur or be serious. Most drivers have a personal insurance policy, and the amount of coverage that you have varies. Usually corporations have a higher one, and they usually have an umbrella in place. Individual policies range anywhere from maybe 50,000 to 100 or 500,000 or even $1 million. So your personal automotive insurance will be able to cover a reasonable amount of damages. But when your personal injury insurance runs out, there may be cases where you are now personally liable for anything above and beyond what your insurance covers. So it's worth it to understand what the limitations of your automotive insurance are.
Thank you, Chris. The bottom line, the next time you lend a car to a friend, hand your keys to the valet or drop off your car for repair at a shop or even at the dealer, you assume a certain portion of the risk. Make sure you have the proper insurance. There is so much more to discuss in this. Put your comments below and let's start the conversation. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. And if you have questions or comments, we'll be happy to answer them. All my links for social media, the book, and the podcast are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.